Recently, Horizon, an American Saga, which has risen to 6th place in popularity with an 8.2 IMDb rating, will be reviewed with you today. But remember that these reviews are only related to this film and do not encompass future films. We watch separate stories in the same time period of this exactly 3-hour movie. After watching the movie before the second part was released, it was clear that this was an experience other than watching a movie presentation. I am neutral towards Western productions. I am neither a fan nor a hater. I just think most types of movies deserve to be watched if the stories are told well. However, when it comes to Horizon, the reason why I distributed it as an experience was that it was definitely a little below my expectations. The first Kevin Costner movie I watched was Waterworld. I was only 14 years old when I watched Waterworld for the first time, and unfortunately it was not a movie that would have the same impact for me. It is an insurmountable fact that Kevin Costner is a true master of Western films and is one of the first names that come to mind when Westerns are mentioned. It is very impressive that Horizon put forward its own budget for its shooting and gave the recordings of not the third, but even the fourth movie to movie fans for the sequel of the movie. We will present the second part shortly after the first part. When I first watched the trailer, what I thought was a real Western, I started watching the movie, and to be frank, Horizon was one of those old epic Western movies that are no longer made. It is quite satisfying in terms of cinematography, and it is possible to enjoy the shots throughout the entire movie. There are many characters. It is incredibly challenging to understand any character adequately from the first part, to digest the events, and to break the connection between them. Horizon is a film that needs to be digested and watched, and it is definitely not a film that appeals to everyone, especially Hollywood. As I mentioned, the first part is so challenging that the fact that the second movie will be released very soon is definitely an advantage for us, because the small sections about the continuation of the story were short summaries of the other parts to come, and it seems that we have a huge plot in front of us to follow. When we look at the cast, the film has a cast of successful actors, a project that does not use CGI, and an impressive soundtrack list. But it would be more accurate to say that when we focus on the scenario, things fall apart or do not come together at all. We witness and are exposed to multiple stories, events, and characters simultaneously, causing nothing but confusion. It is almost impossible to follow the events that develop in the film and understand their connection with each other, because considering that this is the first part of the production, explanations and connections will be presented to us in other upcoming episodes. Even though I knew this, the confusion and inability to make sense of the events while watching the movie made me a little bored. In the first story, we see the townspeople who are attacked by Apaches. Frances, who lost her husband and son in the attack, is rescued from their hiding place with her daughter by the American army and taken under protection. We then witness the small-scale flirtation between the young widow Frances and the lieutenant who caught her attention. In the first story, we do not see Frances in a very critical role. We know Jeff Fahey as the scalp hunter who survived the Apache attack on the town and then took on more sadistic and revenge roles. Yes, they kill Apaches as revenge and sell and trade the scalped hair and skin. You didn't get me wrong. This episode was a detail that told us how a person who survived brutality could turn into a monster. One of the parts that I'm most curious about is the character of Lucy, who plays a leading role as a troublesome woman in the movie. I'm curious about the continuation of her story because she was one of the most interesting characters, and even if it was the first part, I would like her to be given a little more attention and a little more role and time to understand the character and the event. The complicated situation of the film from the beginning to the end gave the message that it would connect the other stories from the very beginning. In Horizon, one of the most pioneering supporting materials that would enable the film to progress and add an epic atmosphere was the orchestral soundtrack that matched the cinematography. The harmony of John Debney's music with the production was great. One of my favorite details about Horizon was that it was not a visually dark movie. The general scenes were bright and not difficult to watch, making the movie more enjoyable to watch. Horizon is a movie that is impossible to cover with just one part. The first part of the movie is the beginning of a huge saga, and we need to be able to experience the rest of this saga in order to connect every point with each other. Even though it was a rich viewing time of 3 hours, the functioning of the movie seemed a bit shallow to me because you cannot get to know any of the characters well enough, and you cannot keep up with the progress of the events. Yes, I know that I said there would be a sequel to the movie. We will see the sequel there and understand it better. But as I said, 3 hours was enough for us to at least understand the characters a little better. While so much happens in the movie, almost nothing actually happens. For the rest of the saga, everything depends on the other movies to be released. I want to convince myself that the next episodes will be more understandable and fluent and trust Costner's vision. Horizon is a project that has been in the works for years. Costner has been working to make this epic since the 80s, and due to this effort and ambition, our expectations automatically rise considerably. I hope that Costner will give us a film experience that exceeds our expectations, and that this epic will be the epic Western production we have been waiting for.